It's here. I am so happy, but I'm also so nervous about this one. And if you don't know, let me give you some context first. This book is Create This Book. It's a prompt book created and designed by the amazing Mariah Elizabeth. And this copy that I have in my hands right now might just be the biggest art collaboration YouTube has ever seen. So I'm nervous. 50 artists or maybe more are going to create something in the pages of this copy that I have here right now. And a few artists have already started, and now it's my turn. If you don't know who I am, welcome to my channel. My name is Paula and I love everything creative. So I was super excited when the Aussie crafter reached out to me and said if I wanted to be a part of this collab, which of course I wanted to. And now the book is here in my home in South America. And yeah, now it's my turn, so let's get started. The book came to me from Christine at Courageous Painting. She is the sweetest. She said this butterfly for good luck and these beautiful stickers for me along with the book. I love the stickers so much. I think I'm gonna put them on my planner, which I use every day because they are so me. I hope you watch her video already because the art she made for her 2 prompts is just out of this world amazing. The book also came with these instructions, which I did read thoroughly. And the first thing it asks you to do is grab the map, which is included, and mark your location. As you can see, the book has already traveled quite a lot from Australia to the States and now here in Ecuador. So I'm marking my country and trying to put my dot closest to the city I live in, which is Quito. The second thing you have to do is sign the book. So I'm going to sign my name here. And I'm writing creative on top, so it's my name, but also my channel's name. Okay, moving forward. Christine sent a note where she specifies the prompt she chose for me to do, and that is create a castle. So let's go look for the prompt. I haven't gotten to this one in my own book yet. Here it is. Draw a castle where a king or queen would live and name the kingdom. Okay, I'm going to take a slightly different approach on this castle, no royalty in mind. I'm going to use an extra sheet of paper and I'm marking where the prompt goes. I regularly screw this part up in my own book, but here I want to be careful. I also took time to mark the center of the page and I've started to draw my castle now. So when I think about castles, this is the first thing I think about. I am such a Disney fan, and that half circle going around the castle is super iconic to me. I'm the one person who has tears in her eyes from the excitement of watching the Happily Ever After fireworks show as the castle transforms. I've cried every time I've seen it. Disney was one of my favorite things of living in Florida. Drawing inspiration from that image, I want to create a dream castle of sorts. So I'm placing my castle on top of a cloud and it's going to have a lot of whimsical elements. And I'm also going to try to have those half circles in the back. Now, because this book is traveling through different countries and hands, I want my pages to really have a little bit of me on them. Not only in my style and my art, but a representation. So I'm adding 4 characters on this page. The first one is one I've created in clay and has been on my book too. His name is Boo Boo. As you can see, he is a panda, which is one of my favorite animals. So I chose to draw him there right in the middle in front of the castle. I'm also drawing all of these weird kind of whimsical plants, which are actually inspired in real plants you can find here in Ecuador. The rest of the characters will be hitting in the places where I wrote numbers. Those who are not new to my channel know that I like to make my prompts interactive, and that's why I'm hiding all of the other characters. I was contemplating my drawing until I decided I was happy with it and it was time to ink it. Okay, so now it was time to color it, and I chose my alcohol markers with this very soft pastel color combination, which I've already swatched on an extra piece of paper. And I really wanted this piece to be very well done, so I took a lot of time coloring with my markers, and I actually for the first time experimented with some blending. This took a long time, so let's just have a nice art montage for you to see the process. Okay, coloring done, and I don't think I've ever taken this long to color anything with alcohol markers. But here it is, and I'm super proud of how it turned out. I really, really love it. Now it's time to do the lines on the back, and although it looks like it, I didn't want it to be a rainbow, but more like the actual glittery trail Tinkerbell lives behind the castle. So I tested some of my glittery watercolors on an extra piece of paper to see how much it would wrinkle. And I thought the wrinkling wasn't that bad, so I grabbed those and I did some colors on the back of the castle. I tried to blend them a little bit, and as you can see, there is a difference between the watercolor and the marker on this very thin paper. The watercolor does wrinkle quite a lot. But I got the shimmer effect which I wanted, and it's not all over the picture, so I thought the page was okay with this small amount of wrinkling. Anyhow, now to the interactive part of my book. So I'm gonna bring in a cutting knife and I'm gonna cut out the parts I want to reveal the animals. I chose to do the interactive part very simple, just flaps opening, because pop-up can get too thick. I've done some pop-up in my book, and I think that's why it's getting so thick, would not even have been done yet. So I cut the bushes, the door, and I also cut the central window. After I cut the areas I wanted to be movable, I decided I should make those parts of the paper stronger. So I just added packing tape to the back of everything, which meant I had to go back with my cutting knife and cut the packing tape again. I really think I needed this extra step for where the paper was going to be manipulated. I don't want anyone to be scared about ripping it. I grabbed an additional piece of paper and calculated the space I had to draw my characters in. I chose the Galapagos turtle, which is a giant tortoise that you can only find in the Galapagos Islands. I also wanted to draw a blue-footed booby. I was trying to develop the character straight on the paper, but I ended up taking it further on my sketchbook and giving it a lot of personality. This is now Fat Booby, and I also drew it and made him larger on my previous video where I got to play with my colorful new paint markers. I finally added this little fellow. It's a rodent that is similar to a chinchilla. This one you apparently can only find in one part of Ecuador. I think it's really cute because it has a very long bushy tail like a squirrel, but it also has little long ears like a bunny. Once I had my 3 little animals, I attached them to the back of my illustration. So my Fat Booby, he's just gonna peek out from this door. It was really easy to attach him, same with the turtle. She's gonna be behind the bushes. But for the middle window, I wanted to have a simple but different reveal. So I cut an extra ribbon of paper with a heart on top. The strip goes glued down to the bottom of the window flap and comes out the top from this tiny slit I cut. So when you pull the heart, it pulls the window up. Here's the heart part, which is folding and cutting the illustration in half. There's no going back. And once I started cutting, I realized I did cut my panda in the middle. That was a miscalculation on my part. I didn't want anything to be on the middle line, but oh well, I think it's still gonna look nice. My art is now in the book, so I'm gonna go ahead and sign and date this. I never usually do this, but in this special book, I'm also gonna color the prompt just to make it a little bit prettier and to tie the whole page together. So this first prompt is done. Now it's time for me to choose a prompt I want to make, and I chose one that I've already done in my book. The prompt reads, "Create hope. Draw or attach an image that's encouraging to you." So yes, my own book is more about the ideas than the results, but it's getting neater as I get more practice. I will link my own Create This Book 3 playlist in case you are interested in watching that. I really do love the idea I got that first time because nothing lifts up my spirit and gives me more hope than a sunny day. So I like that the sun is coming out and it's interactive, but the paper I used was too thick. It's a little bit messy all over. It got stained. You can see the bleed through from the page behind and all of that. I wanted to give this one another shot, but now I have a slightly different idea. Since the prompt is create hope, I'm going back to something that gave me hope in a very hard and dark time in my life. I'm drawing inspo from something my guide or therapist said to me. He said, if you're in a totally dark place, in a dark room where you cannot see anything, not even your nose, if someone, even for a second, opens a tiny hole and some light shines through that hole and then immediately covers it, you will never be able to unsee that light. You'll always know without a doubt that the light was there. So even though it's hard now, remember the light is always there. Shout out to Santi. Thank you so much. That was beautiful for me to hear and understand. And I chose to understand and believe that the darkness would not last forever. My idea is to create these dark pages with a tiny peephole, and once you look through the hole, you open it and you'll see this hopeful image of a landscape. Doing a landscape because I want the prompts to carry a little bit of who I am and what I do, and I usually paint abstract landscapes in my art practice, so I wanted to do something inspired on that. I drew a soft outline for my landscape and chose some colors for it. Again, I'm going with pastel light colors and my alcohol markers. I want this landscape to be bright and whimsical too. This is a little bit different from the colors I use when I work on canvas, so I tested those on the side of my paper and cover all of the larger areas with my alcohol markers. I thought this was gonna be faster than doing everything with colored pencil, and it definitely was. But then I got to the sky. The alcohol marker I was planning on using was done, and I didn't really have a very light blue color that I wanted for the sky. So I erased all of the remaining guidelines and I decided to do the whole thing with coloring pencils. But I've never colored areas as big as this sky. I also wanted the coloring pencil to match the area mix with the alcohol markers, having both parts looking soft, blended, and smooth. So I started really slowly by putting down the colors very lightly on very thin layers. And I have to tell you, this took forever. It took so many hours. It was very satisfying, but it was a long process. So that was a snippet of me working at regular speed, but I also want to show you this area as a time lapse because it's so satisfying to see it come together as I build up the color. And that was nice to look at, but again, this is my actual speed coloring. As I moved along, it started to look great. I mean, I still had the blue part to do, but I was feeling happy with the clouds, so I carried on. I was done with the sky, and of course there was a lot of sharpening. And now it was time to address the hills or the mountain part of my landscape. Because this represents my normal artwork, I am adding all of the rhythmic lines I use on canvas. And then I use colored pencils on top, so this area would have more depth and both parts would match. To finish, I added what I call vibration lines, and now it's done. So it's time to fold it and do the dark part. Now my initial idea was to cut out a hole through the whole page, but after I put so many hours onto coloring this beautiful landscape, I didn't want to cut through it. So I chose to try to create the illusion of it. I colored another yellow circle on top to match where the sun is, so it looks like it's the same thing once you flip the page. I'm going to put black paper with a little hole on top of that. So I calculated where to cut the hole so it will match the sun's again, and I chose to cut it in the shape of a little heart. A bright little heart full of hope. I could have painted this with acrylic, but I thought the black paper was a nice touch, and maybe the acrylic would have been uneven and curled the photocopy paper too much. The paper I'm using is actually as thin as wrapping paper, so I thought it would be okay. I made the light coming through the heart a little bit nicer, like it's a little sun with a darker yellow, and I glued my black paper on top. Okay, so that side for the prompt is done, and I went ahead and glued that into the book. Once it was glued in there, I cut the excess paper and it's ready. So you open it and it reveals a beautiful landscape. For the opposite page, I'm using more black paper. I try to cut the space for the prompt. I usually mess this part, so I measured before and I still messed it up. It's okay, I'm going to paint over the flowers, including the one I covered with the paper, and turn them into hearts. I'm using acrylic marker so it won't bleed through since the other side will be created by a different artist. I was also careful to outline the new hearts with a pen instead of a marker to prevent the bleed. Once that was ready, I wanted to write a quote to make that dark background a little less grim and the space fuller. And I wrote, "The beauty of light owes its existence to the dark." I think that quote is beautiful and really relevant to the story I shared with you when beginning this prompt. You can flip the page and discover this very encouraging and peaceful, and I would like to think hopeful landscape. So signed, dated, and done. And let's just take a second to look back at the other prompt we made today. Unveiling my little chinchilla, turtle, and fat booby. And saying bye to them because they will now join the book in its travels. My desk is a complete mess, which means I'm officially done with my work in this book. And there's a lot of background noise today in my house, but I have to film this because I know this little book needs to return to its travels so another creator can put their mark on it. And you're probably very curious to know where it's going now. It's going way back up to the United States to my dear, dear friend, Ashley. Here you go, friend.
Thanks, lovely. I got it. Woo, 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 woo.
Okay, so now she has it and you'll probably see her video soon. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. If you're new, please consider subscribing. And that's it for me. I hope you're having the most wonderful day and that I'll see you next time. Bye.